Okay, welcome to session 2. So it's a pleasure that you will follow this session. Patrick O and myself will chair the session. And we will kick off with Benjamin Thébado and Amrine Dubois-Gaffard and Shivor Pavo. Their talk will be about the Joyce Country and Western Lakes Geopark project, an asset and a facilitator for education and research. Have fun.
Thanks very much. Thanks, Hilda. Thanks, Patrick. We'll kick off on time, and I will just share this presentation. Okay. Right. So this presentation is the first, I believe, from our Geopark project, not yet aspiring Geopark, because we haven't officially submitted our application to UNESCO yet. And I'll be sharing this presentation with my colleague, Amrine Dubois-Gaffard, based in Geological Survey Ireland, while I'm based in the West myself in the actual region of the project. So this presentation is a bit different, I suppose, to what you'll be used to in IGRM. We're not going to really talk about new research, but new education initiative, and it will probably sound a little bit like a sales pitch, but it's to remind people how geoparks are not just there, for the highlight of heritage for tourism, nor for only for education of school children, but also for the higher education communities and for research as well. So our project is a 2-year project that was funded by the Rural Regeneration Development Fund. It is a project led by Geological Survey Ireland with significant support by Údarás na Gaeltachta, Mayo and Galway County Councils, and other partners as well. It is the result of 10 years of volunteer work culminating in that application to the fund. During that 2-year project, we have 3 permanent staff, including myself, Amrine, and our project manager, in Michael Hegarty, based in the West as well. We also have a part-time tourism officer, thanks to the contribution from Údarás na Gaeltachta. Our office is based in Tuairvicéide, in South Mayo Gaeltacht of Joyce Country, there on the shore of Loch Marsk. And our main aim for this project is the application to the UNESCO Global Geopark status that we will submit at the end of this year. So our context is the following. We are located in Íar Connacht, the West Connacht, so West Galway and Mayo region. This map is an orientation map. It doesn't cover it covers the whole region, so not just our geopark, but much wider. It was a way to really pinpoint where Joyce Country is in relation to Westport, to Galway, to Connemara, to the coastline, etc., and the lakes as well. But the actual region that we're talking about is this one, and it follows really the Ballintubber-Killawalla at the north. It includes the Erith Valley, the Killary Fjord, the Lochaina and Glenina, Recess, Mamcross, Uachtarard, and then it crosses to Headford, including Ballinrobe and the whole of Loch Cara here. So it's North Connemara and Southwest Mayo. It has the uplands of Joyce Country, which covers the Partry Mountains, the Mam Turks, and then other uplands of Benbeg and others in the Joyce Country. It has the entire area of Loch Cara, Loch Mask, and the northern half of Loch Corrib. It also includes significant lakes like Loch Nafui, Loch Einan, Derry Clare, and Killary Harbour as well. It has 15 villages and 3 towns, the main concentration population really on the flat plains to the east of the lakes there. It has a significant area in the Gaeltacht. Close to 50% of our area is Gaeltacht, so a thriving, living language, something that we promote heavily in our project and in our geopark, both in education and in the tourism initiatives as well. The draft boundaries, only draft until we submit the application, covers 1,500 square kilometers at the minute. sorry, so why the geoparks? I haven't gone through what a geopark is. That's not the remit of this presentation, and you probably all know that about it. But the first point to know in this particular context is that it needs to have geology of international significance. I know most of you will know what I'm going to talk about. For some of you who don't, I'm going to just highlight these. So our main claim to fame is the complete record of the Grampian taconic orogeny. Not the only place that has that, but one of the best in terms of the concentration of that record, that you can visit all the steps of it in a relatively small region, so transport issues is less a problem there. We also have, including in this record rather, we have the Connemara marble, a world famous, now considered a heritage stone for Ireland, specifically famous in the diaspora of Irish people in England, the US, Canada, Australia, etc. The luscious green marble used in some indoor decorations or jewels as well is very popular, and the story of its formation is very interesting as well. Killary Fjord is the unique fjord in Ireland. So on top of being such an iconic and beautiful place on the Wide Atlantic Way, it also has a beautiful story to tell. We also include the Cong Spring Complex. That is in the world's top 10 in terms of flow. Even at the summer, drier months, we still have a significant flow up swelling around the village of Cong there. Now, and I know that will sound strange in the geological context again, but we also have a very, very marl lake, which is obviously not a geological record, but rather a geological deposition in action of bacteria on the lake floor, creating a very interesting biodiversity rich habitat around Lough Carron. And this is the geological map that we produced and that we have delivered. It's on our website, and it's has been it was in a few of our businesses network during the last summer season, about whatever season that was. And it really highlights the diversity of bedrock record that we have in the area. And I won't go into too much detail there. You can also see 10 sites of interest that we highlighted that really help to showcase the geological story of the area. This is an extract from our website, and it's the interactive map that we have there, where we showcase the sites of interest and other businesses that we are linked with. And I just want to mention here that we connect with local businesses with the aim of not just tourism, but also educational ventures in the area. In here, you can see the accommodation highlighted, and you can see that some regions like Cong, Clonbur area are quite a few in the offering. And I'll let Amryn now take over.
Thanks, Benjamin. Morning, everyone. So I'll continue with how we foster education research. One of the ways we do this is through our online resources, and all of these can be found on our website. So there you can find our geological map that Ben just showed, as well as the geological narrative, and these can be found in the R Geopark section when you look there. The sites of interest also have their own descriptions, and this can be found in the See and Do section of our website. We've recently sent a place name and geology booklet to all of the primary and secondary schools in the area, so in both counties, and this will hopefully soon be sent to the universities as well. It's a bilingual book and will be officially launched soon, and it will also be available as a PDF on the website. And just to note, it was completed with a prior GeoHeritage grant from Geological Survey Ireland. Before all of these restrictions that we're all experiencing, there were visits to primary and secondary schools. These were about 16 schools were visited so far, and obviously we hope to visit more when restrictions ease. This photo was taken about this time last year, and Hopefully we're sparking an interest in these students to learn more about geosciences and maybe encourage them to pursue this in the future. And an example of lifelong learning that we're offering is our Geopark ambassador courses. So this started this year. We've run 2 sessions so far. The first lot was in January, and we've just recently completed the second lot of sessions. And we had about 60 people take part, which is really great. And these people are from the local businesses, the communities, and the teachers within our Geopark area. So it's really encouraging to see so many people interested to learning more. And finally, we're also providing links to relevant modules, learning outcomes from the Irish curriculum, and linking these to the Geopark. So this is doing this from all levels. So we've got primary, junior, leaving cert, and even 3rd level or university modules as well. And we really want to encourage and empower teachers to use the field as a classroom and to use local examples within their teaching as much as possible. Yes, thanks. This is the page on the website. It's under learning. So we're just taking the 3rd level example here. So you can see the different colleges listed. So you just click into whichever one you're interested in. And in our example, we're just going to click into NUIG. And then there's a drop-down menu of the different modules that are on offer and which of those are relevant or can be tied into the Geopark area. And in this example here, we're looking at sediments and the sedimentary record. And one of the examples we're suggesting is to use the Finney Kilbride Peninsula area as an example for this, which leads us into showing you a bit more about this. So this is our geological map again, and just zoom in or just to highlight there where the Kilbride Peninsula area is on the shores of Loch Mask. You can see it in a picture there with the arms of Loch Mask coming around, and from this picture we can see the pinkish reddish tinge of lava flows. We're currently working on developing a guide to use this area as an introductory field trip for universities to use. And so what can we see there? We can see pillow basalts at Finney. Not only are there 2D examples of the pillow basalts, probably the most common, or the ones that are seen most often, but we also have 3D examples as well. And hopefully you can see, yeah, there we go. The pictures there show lovely 3D examples of these pillow basalts. And the bottom left picture also shows red and green chert bands you can see within them as well. We've also got the Silurian transgression that can be seen there and fossils associated with this. So from the pictures, you can see scolitos, you can see corals. This example here is solitary coral, but there are also examples of colonial ones. And you can also see trilobites there as well. There's a felsic and porphyry intrusion and the dune rock fault, which brings the Dalradian schists up to the Silurian. And to finish with, there's also the Lochnafuy Valley, which is a textbook example of a U-shaped valley as well. And here is just the geological map of the Kilbride Peninsula area. It's a 1 to 20,000 scale. And just to highlight that it is a bilingual map, but also to highlight all of the different colours that you can see, which just shows you the geodiversity there is there for a relatively small area. I'm going to pass back to Benjamin now, who'll talk about other geological highlights in the wider GeoProject region.
Thanks, Amrin. Yeah, we've taken the example of the Finney Kilbride Peninsula, how it really kind of showcased a lot in the introduction to geology courses, but we also have a wider landscape to explore while you're there. I mentioned already the Dalradian succession, which includes the example of the Connemara Marble, the Lakes Marble Formation, including this textbook outcrop in Curra Hill in the Mam Valley. We have the quartzites that are easily accessible in Main, but that you can see all over the Mam Turks as well. and large folds that are also very clear to see in the naked eye from the road in the Lough Ina Valley or in the Mam Valley itself. We have the extensive karst landscape, including the Cong Spring Complex that I mentioned already, with also a number of publicly accessible caves, such as the Pigeonhole pictured here, with the whole story of the Cong Canal to explore in terms of its cultural aspect, but also it's linked with the lake level in Lough Mask and Lough Carra, and how it showcased, it allowed new limestone pavement to develop since its opening 150 years ago. And the large limestone quarry in Magra as well, Magra in between Cong and Clonbur is one that can be accessed for field trip. The limestone pavement in Clonbur and all around the south shores of Lough Mask features some unique epikarst features, such as the tube cairn, Ruran cairn, famously described by Mike Sims and Matthew Parks in their articles. The boulders in their socket, again, quite specific to the area, and the quite extensive egg box fitting as well. So an interesting landscape to explore. In terms of the Quaternary, we have Ireland's only fjord at Killary Harbour, and a rich variety of other glacial features. We have a significant numbers of quarries, including 3 in one valley at the Jerks in the Owen Brint Valley, south of Chomakili, and this is a picture on the other side of it in the Glenawu, on the northeast side of Mount Trasna on the Erith Valley, the northwest side rather. And we have a number of U-shaped valleys that we mentioned already, Lough Nafui and Lough Ina being textbook, multiple regression moraines and cames, similarly to the Erith Valley. We have Drumlin Islands, a large number of them on the large lakes, like Lough Carra, Lough Mask, Lough Corrib. We also have Crow Glacial's Lakes Delta in Linan, the picture below, as well as a couple of meltwater channels, including the one coming out of the Gowlan Valley just to the west of Lough Nafui. And finally, we have a significant mining heritage also to explore from the late 19th century, in particular Glengowla mine, which is an open mine that you can visit today and check what was extracted there and in what way 120, 30 years ago. So just to finish off on our point, the Geopark is an asset for all of you, for educators and for researchers. We help here with not only the framing of that narrative, which can be useful, or showcasing where things are, but also we can act as a contact between you and the landowners for safe and agreed access for an eventual field trip or field work. Contact with accommodation providers to also give you a potential, the best price you can get in the area, as well as mentioned the bus and catering services in the area that can also be arranged. And finally, we'd love to help you, Jane Iracht, Goliocht agus Tirioliocht Abunu Trieliga, as we are a fully bilingual project and in a bilingual area. So don't forget to check out our website or contact us by email as always, Joyce Country Geopark Project.ie. And just Amrin to finish off.
Yeah, thanks. It's just a reminder that Geological Survey Ireland has the 6 temporary graduate positions now open. So there's one graduate position for TELUS in marine and coastal, groundwater and geothermal, geoheritage, minerals and mapping. So there's one position for each of those programs. Head to our website to find out more. The opportunities page on Geological Survey Ireland's website, and the deadline is the 15th of March at noon. So please apply if this is of interest to you. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for a great talk.
Yeah.
Sorry, Paddy, you can go ahead.
No, absolutely. I agree totally. An absolutely fantastic talk. The images alone are absolutely stunning throughout it all. And a bit of publicity and a promotion for the Geological Survey Ireland at the end as well. So touching all the bases. I suppose I am just interested in, I think one thing that comes out of it is the Geopark ambassador courses, which I think is a great idea in terms of that sort of buy-in locally and getting local people invested in, you know, presenting their own area. I think that's really nice. When it comes to actually developing the idea of a geopark, obviously the geology for the west of Ireland speaks for itself, but how much of a case do you have to make either locally or to other bodies in terms of the potential economic impact? And how do you go about that? I mean, is it part of it at all, or
it's a significant part of it? In fact, it's the biggest challenge, really. Geoparks are still widely unknown, really, in terms of all those potential, whether it's tourism, whether it's return on investment like that, or whether it's conservation, whether it's education, and the way it could be used like that for nationally to really promote geoscience at all level, and so make a healthier geoscience research in the future as well. It's UNESCO is a big name. It's a big brand, and when we talk about geopark status, it's the same level as World Heritage, and that can frighten some people as well. So you also have to say, no, geoparks do not have any extra restrictions. It's different from World Heritage, but it is on the same, on the same level in terms of the international kind of outlook it has. So yes, the case of the case of finding a financial management system that would work and that would be sustainable in the short to long term is the biggest challenge, and especially when we try to establish ourselves in the first place, and it has to be, just to note, we can't apply to UNESCO until we have that in place. So right. Even if we have everything else, so it is a significant challenge, but it is something that we're meeting head on through the publicities, through the comparison with the existing geoparks, which are doing very well and are helping us extremely on that front, and the geological survey as well, in terms of they're leading us really and making a lot of those contacts and in the higher levels of administration to make that happen.
Great, good.
So I have another question. So as soon as the restrictions will be released, and we can cross country borders again, I think you will get so many visitors in that area because it's an interesting area. So the information, will you provide them mainly online, or do you think about putting up billboards and really signs and also where interesting outcrops are and just to provide these information?
Yes, absolutely. Again, that would be one of the necessary parts of becoming a geopark officially. Would need to have some physical interpretation in place, reasonable, in line with what exists already, as we have quite a number of panels for the Wide Atlantic Way beside us, and also another initiative in Connemara similarly to that. So we would have something that would merge with them, but at the same time carrying our distinctive image and specifically talk about the local geology. So yes, there will be a limited but significant one that will be then mapped out and linked with our online content. Yes.
Excellent.
Thanks.
Yep, thank you, both of you. And we'll let you go now and we'll pass on to the next talk.
Thank you.
So, Hardcore Cork, promoting Cork's geological heritage through 3D reconstructions and a museum exhibition. And we have Ode St. Cotta and Thomas Heising to present on that.
Thank you. So I'm going to share my screen now. Okay. Good morning, everyone. So I'm really delighted to present this outreach project that we've been presenting, that we've been developed actually for weeks now, or even months, with my colleague Thomas Heising, who's a graphic designer. So we are going to have different activities for that outreach project. and we are hoping that this project will bring a new insight into what geology is to the general public. So Hardcore Cork, Geology in the City is the full name of our project. This is an outreach project funded by Geological Survey Ireland through their GeoHeritage grant scheme. So for that project, we've developed a branding design that you can see in particular on this slide. So we've developed animations, logos for that project, and we have chosen two main colors for the branding design, which are white and red, because those two colors are the colors of the city of Cork. And interestingly, they're also the colors of the main lithologies that you can find in Cork, so the limestones and sandstones. So we'll have a variety of activities organized around that outreach project in Cork. We hope to have that project ready by the summer. And the aim of this project is really to make geology accessible to everyone, and to raise awareness on Cork's geological heritage. So often people don't notice that geology is everywhere around them, even in cities. So we would like that to change actually with that project. So we have developed our project around 5 different topics or key products. We are going to do 3D reconstructions. I'll use the laser, it will be easier. So we'll reconstruct different paleo environments. We'll also set up walking tours in Cork, where people will be able to see geological outcrops, but also historical buildings and other smaller pieces of architecture, like, for example, fountains or benches built with local materials. We'll also set up a museum exhibition where we'll show rock samples. There will be virtual reality activity there as well. And we'll create a website. That website will be really the central place to gather all the information about the project. So we'll add the 3D reconstructions on that website, also the information about the exhibition and the different walking tours. And we'll add educational content as well on the website. So we'll reach out to local primary and secondary schools to provide them with some educational content. So why did we decide to design such a project in Cork? First, is because we live in Cork, even if we are not a native from Cork, but we really enjoy living in the city. Then we witnessed a decrease in the number of students choosing geology after the first year in college. So we really wanted to make geology interesting again for children, and maybe having more students, hopefully, in the future in that discipline. We also wanted to provide family activities in Cork. So we wanted to have activities that children can do with their parents or carer. And given the current situation around COVID, outdoor activities are I think something that will be going on for a little while. So we wanted to have to organize walking tours, something that people can do outside. We also wanted to have a centralized place to gather all the information about Cork's GeoHeritage, Cork's Foundation, and Natural History. We also, with this project, wanted to experiment a new way of communicating science with the public. So we decided to do a bit of research, qualitative research, and are organizing one-to-one interviews with parents to look at their needs and what they would like to see organized in the city for their children. And then, of course, we find geology super interesting, and we want to share our passion and interest with the general public. So before really starting the work on that project, we needed to identify our target audience. So we decided to really focus the different activities on children above 9 years old and their parents or carers, and anyone who has an interest in geology. So what we need to do now is also to understand what that target audience knows about geology and how they experience it in the city.
Yes, it's the same for me as well.
Yeah, same for me. I thought it was my internet.
Yeah, I think we were nearly there anyway.
I was wondering, was it at my end, but is it at Ode's end, do we think?
Think so.
Okay.
Yeah, on the chat, it looks like she's left the conversation. She must have dropped out her line. Maybe move on.
Yes.
So yeah, like please ask questions like in the chat in the YouTube channel. So like we are happy like to pass them on to the speakers.
Well, will we start the next one and bring Ode back in at the end of the session? Is probably just to keep to the schedule, because we have Gary coming up at around.
It's me now, is it?
Yes, Gary, it's you.
So
yeah, the next speaker is Gary. Like it looks like a collaboration between UCD and Trinity. So the core collaborations are Stephen Daly, John Murray, Aidan, David True, Esther Badensky, Brendan Hall, Paul Guyot, and Fortini Dracu. And the title is Uranium-Lead Ages of Carboniferous Sedimentary Phosphates from County Clare. Enjoy the talk.
Yeah, Galway as well, collaborating with. It's all over Ireland. All right. Can everyone see that and hear me, Grant? Okay, perfect. Yeah, so this is really a project that is about obtaining uranium-lead ages from phosphate, which is kind of a new kind of method to date these materials that I've been working on, and using County Clare as kind of a test bed to develop the method. And so I'm a postdoc in UCD. Stephen Daly is my mentor there. I'm funded by the Irish Research Council, and these are also the logos of the various organizations I've been working with during this project, or of my co-authors. And so in terms of the talk structure, I'm just going to go through firstly, what exactly are sedimentary phosphates? What am I talking about? Go through very briefly just some previous efforts to date these materials. And then I'm going to go through the concept of fidelity, which I think is necessary to get accurate ages from these materials, which is where if our petrographic observations and our chemical data agree with one another, then we can say that the age information we can get from them can relate to early processes. And then after that, I'll go through the phosphates in Northern County Clare, our ages for them, and maybe some implications for the Clare part of the Shannon Basin from that data. Those data. So first of all, to define what sedimentary phosphates are, I'll define what they're not. So I'm not talking about sands, so things like apatite or monazite, weathered from igneous and metamorphic rocks, and weathered and transported into sandstones. Instead, what I'm talking about are things that look like this. This is a BSE image of a shale from Clare, and we have in the kind of the lighter areas, we have these phosphatic portions of the rock, these kind of nodules which grow after the sediment has been deposited, shortly afterwards. And so what these are composed of are the biological activity of bacteria, like these sulfide oxidizing bacteria, Thiomargarita. What we're not really talking about, though, are the mineralized body parts of, for example, vertebrates, etc. Because in a well-preserved rock, we should be able to tell apart a skeletal body part from a nodular bacterial concretion, for example. And if we can't, we probably shouldn't be dating that material. And then in terms of when and where these phosphates precipitate, we're generally talking about these kind of areas of upwelling, high biological productivity, and low overall sedimentation rate. And there are other environments in which these phosphates precipitate, but they're more limited in time and space, and probably not very relevant to the County Clare and the Carboniferous. So if we move on to some of the previous efforts to date these materials, we have going all the way back to 1908, some attempts to gain ages from sedimentary phosphates, including this paper here on the accumulation of helium in geological time by Strutt. And John Joly at Trinity also speculated on the possibility to do this in 1908 as well. Since then, the main method that's been used to obtain ages from sedimentary phosphates is generally uranium series dating on recent occurrences like these guano deposits. And then in terms of looking back at the geological record, lead-lead, lutetium-hafnium, and the uranium-lead methods, whether in solution or by laser ablation, have generally been the methods to obtain ages. However, in most of these studies, there's generally difficulties in proving the link between these ages and early diagenesis. And the ages are almost always, though not always, over-dispersed, meaning that the errors that are quoted maybe do not integrate the fact that there could be geological scatter as well as just the analytical uncertainty on those ages. So this is where, for my project, I've been bringing in this idea of maybe fidelity. So getting petrography and chemistry, so our kind of qualitative observations, and then our quantitative chemical data to see if they agree with one another. And if they do, then we can extract an age. And so the things I've been looking at, for example, have included rare earth element patterns and various ratios of elements. And this is a common plot used for phosphate chemistry. This is from Garnett et al. And in this example, we have modern seawater compositions here in the middle, and then the analyzed phosphates just above. And if you're moving in this direction up on this graph, generally the process that has occurred are early diagenetic lithification processes. So moving up on this graph is generally consistent with the information being derived from an early event. Whereas if you're moving to the left, that suggests that recrystallization has occurred and the chemical and petrographic indicators won't be agreeing with each other, and the age will be younger than the rock. And then over here we have a very simple kind of textbook example of phosphate facies. And so essentially, you first of all, through bacterial processes, you're generating phosphate in a rock. And then if the accumulation of sediment outpaces erosion, you'll just get some amount of phosphate distributed through this rock as it accumulates. Whereas if you have some condensation of the sedimentary record and you have erosion outpacing the accumulation of phosphate, you form these layers composed almost entirely of phosphate, which we term phosphorites, and these are reworked and granular. So they're very different. And if we might expect that the phosphate that occurs disseminated through sediments will only have interacted with dysoxic sediment pore waters, whereas phosphate that has been reworked will have had a lot of interaction with the seawater column, which is oxygenated. So that's kind of the setup. And now let's go look to County Clare specifically. I'll give a very, very brief an overview history of the Shannon Basin to start. So essentially, it's a basin developed above the, or started to be developed, and it is generally above the lower Carboniferous or the Mississippian. So famous examples being the Burren and the Aran Islands up here in the top of this map. The basin fill spans the lower and upper Carboniferous, and the lowermost formation is the Clare Shales Formation, which has the Carr-McCon member at its base, which are kind of cherty shales with a lot of phosphate nodules in them. Then there is the phosphate member of the Clare Shales, which contains some phosphorite layers and some other pyritic shales. And then above that are the goniatite shales member, which are non-phosphatic and, as the name suggests, contain a lot of goniatite. And we're going to home in on this area here in the very north of County Clare. And this is a map showing the two sampling locations that I have samples from for this project. So we have St. Brendan's Well, which is a very well-known location where this material crops out. There's already been mention of it today. And then we have a core CDH3, which was drilled in the 1970s for the Geological Survey, and the core was logged by Conor McDermott for the GSI. And I have a sample of that as well. And here are the generalized stratigraphy of both of these locations on the right. And so at core CDH3 to the north of Kilfenora, we have the three members of the Clare Shales represented. So we have the Carr-McCon, the phosphate, and the goniatite shales. Whereas at St. Brendan's Well, the phosphate member sits directly upon the lower or the uppermost carbonates. So the Carr-McCon member is not present. As well, the phosphate member is much thinner there. That's probably an overrepresentation. It's about 5 to 10 centimeters thick. If we look at some BSE images of material from both locations, we can see that the Carr-McCon member has nodules that look to be in situ within the shale, whereas the phosphate member has, as outlined here in white, these intraclasts and a whole jumble of phosphatic material represented by these light colors. And if we relate these petrographic observations to maybe kind of the textbook examples almost of phosphate facies, we can see that the Carr-McCon member represents this kind of autochthonous gradual accumulation of sediment with phosphate in it, whereas the phosphate member represents perhaps a condensation of the sedimentary record and a concentration up of phosphate bits into a phosphate rock. And then if we look at the chemistry, so we're looking at the other side of the coin, we have a plot here which has the cerium ratio on the the x-axis, and we have the thorium-uranium ratio on the y-axis. And essentially, the less cerium we have, the more oxidizing the environment that precipitated the or that the phosphate existed in probably was, and the lower we go on the thorium-uranium, the same holds. So as we move to the origin on this graph, we're probably talking about an oxidizing environment, and up towards the top right, a more reducing, perhaps sediment, pore water, and dysoxic environment. And sure enough, the Karen-Macon member are these points that plot up to the top right, and the phosphate member down to the bottom left, indicating that the phosphate member was probably exposed to the seawater column for a long time. So the petrographic and the chemical data seem to agree with one another. Secondly, we have again this plot from Garnett et al. Here, a small version on the bottom right, and then our own data here in the middle. And the movement from modern seawater values for these phosphates, which are all the ones below this dotted line, is up on the graph, so indicating that only early processes due to lithification have really altered the composition of these rocks. I should note as well, though, that in yellow here we have some nodules that we analysed from the Sliema Glacier Formation, and they seem to be moving down and left on this graph, which is the direction we might expect if recrystallization had occurred. So there seems to be an indication that phosphate from the Sliema Glacier Formation is being pulled in this direction, indicating that it may have been overprinted. So overall, the petrography and the chemistry do seem to be true to one another. If we move on then, seeing as we can say how each of these phosphates relates to the rock it's in, we can say, we can look at the ages then and relate those to the stratigraphy. So as I mentioned before, phosphate from the Sliema Glacier Formation appeared to be overprinted, and sure enough, it gives a uranium-lead age that is much younger than its stratigraphic position, and may be related to kind of fluid flux, and perhaps related to events around the Variscan orogeny. As we move up, we have a sample of phosphate cement from the Magauna Formation, where we get a kind of Serpicovian age approximately. Then for the Karen-Macon member, the lowermost part of the Clare Shales Formation, we also get a Serpicovian age. And then for the phosphate member, right at the top, we get a much more precise lower Bashkirian age for the phosphates in County Clare. And so what we see is that there is consistently, beneath the phosphate member in Northern Clare, a disconformity. And so whether the phosphate member rests on the underlying limestone formations or the Karen-Macon member, there is time missing in the record. Then if we plot the ages from this study versus the Carboniferous timescale, we can see that this gap corresponds almost exactly, or pretty much exactly, to the mid-Carboniferous boundary, so the Mississippian Pennsylvanian boundary, or the Serpicovian Bashkirian. And so there seems to be a gap of at least 2.5 million years within the Clare Shales Formation in Northern Clare. And if we look at the kind of the textbook examples of how phosphates form, we could see that maybe the Karen-Macon member represents this gradual accumulation of a sediment with phosphate in it, and the phosphate member above it represents a reworking of this material and a concentration of the phosphate into a single phosphorite layer. So that's pretty much it for the Clare Shales Formation. That's what I found so far. Just to say maybe the wider implications of the method, generally it's to get ages for things. So I think I've established this methodology where we have to prove the fidelity between petrography and chemistry in order to extract ages. And then the applications could be to chronostratigraphy, defining the strontium isotope curve back in time, environmental records. And I think there's a particular opportunity to apply this method to the Neoproterozoic and Cambrian periods because the stages are more hazily defined than other periods, and then it also represents a peak in phosphate production. And as always, I'm always willing to collaborate with other scientists in Ireland So if any of you have any interesting rocks or sections you think would be good to study, please let me know. So thanks.
Okay, Gary, that's excellent.
Thanks.
I have a probably very straightforward question. The phosphogenic episodes that are happening, the in situ record of them, is there any suggestion that they are episodic in any way and sort of controlled by any sort of cyclicity or anything like that when you look through the core at them? Do they switch on and off, or are they persistent?
They seem to be quite persistent in the Cairn, but when you look at them close up in thin section, you see that there are phosphatic intervals.
Yeah.
Then you get shale, and then you might get a layer of pyrite, but they're always separate from the phosphates. So there is a cyclicity there, but it could be on a very fine scale.
On a much smaller scale rather than any sort of larger scale cycle. Yeah. Okay. A comment from Stephen Daly. Great talk, rapturous applause. Yeah.
Thanks, Stephen.
Yeah, and he's absolutely right. Okay, I think we'll move on then to the next talk, which is Eamon Doyle. I'll just pull up my schedule here, sorry, to get the title. Sorry, I've lost it in my tabs. Hilda, could you introduce, there we are. First record of a conulard from the Pennsylvania of Ireland by Eamon Doyle. Eamon, the floor is all yours.
Well, thank you, Paddy, and thank you, Gary, for giving us that, because I'm based here down in Clare, and it's good to see this kind of work being done, and it's really interesting, and it's look forward to more. Right, I'm going to be talking about the first record, as far as I know, of a conularian from the Pennsylvanian of Ireland. And following, I don't know if you guys were all watching last night's talk, Paul Hoffman, who was a magnificent talk, and he talked about the origins of all marine primary producers and the global glacial events that happened then. He set the bar very high, but I'll be talking essentially about this. So we've just lowered the bar a little bit, but interesting nonetheless. So what I'm going to be talking about is based down here in the Central Clare group again. You've seen a version of this map already there with Gary. We have our broadly divided into the Shannon group, the Clare Shales, the God Island Formation, and then the Central Clare group containing the Tullig, the Kilkee, and the Dunleaky cyclothem.
Eamon, I'm sorry to interrupt. Maybe it's just me, but I'm just still seeing the title slide.
Oh, okay. Is anybody else seeing just the title slide?
Just
the title slide.
Maybe just go, if you go to full screen, it might solve the problem.
Oh, okay. Let me, how do I do
Sorry,
that?
Eamon, I thought it might
yeah,
just...
that's okay. Let me go back and find where that, how do I go to the...
It's good it's not.
It's, I see it's full screen on my screen now, so I...
Try escape and do it.
Presentation, Eamon, it's not in presentation mode.
Not in presentation mode.
Yeah.
If you have two screens, it might have gone to the other screen, so you need to just display it on one screen and it will probably...
So where do I see presentation mode? That's my question.
Just the slideshow, that's what you want.
Yeah, that's what I have. I've clicked on slideshow now, and...
Perhaps if you share it again, try and share, but selecting the slideshow window.
Sorry, what are we doing?
Just while you're doing that, Eamon, you work away there. We're no rush. I'll just mention to Ode, we're coming back to you. We lost you somewhere, you disappeared, but we're coming back to you after Eamon's talk so that you can finish off and take a couple of questions.
Okay, thanks a lot.
All right, are we seeing that?
Yep, we're seeing
Okay.
the screen.
Okay, so if I go click from beginning, we can see that. And then I go on to the next slide. Can you see that?
Yeah.
So why is it doing that?
But I mean, it's a good point. Like, do you have two screens?
Sorry?
Are you using two screens?
Two screens, no.
No, what you can just do, Eamon, is just move from one slide to the next in this window, and then that's all right.
If you just click 1, 2, 3 on the left-hand side.
Oh, I got you. Right. Now how do I get back out of this? Okay.
Yeah, just do that.
So if I just go here. Okay.
Go to the
Is
left,
that good?
click there and see does it change? Yeah. We'll just do with that, Eamon.
That's perfectly fine. Yeah. Sorry about all that.
No problem, mate. Off you go.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about the Central Clare Group, which sits above the Clare Shale and the Good Island Formation, and is comprised of various cyclothems. They've been informally named as the Tullig cyclothem, the Kilkee cyclothem, and then the younger Dunlicky cyclothem, and there's a couple of others as well that are very poorly exposed and very poorly known further down here. These two cyclothems, the Tullig and the Kilkee, are essentially what make up the Cliffs of Moher. So that usual view you see of the Cliffs of Moher stretching down to the southwest, you're basically looking at the Tullig and the Kilkee cyclothem. So there are mixtures of sandstones and shales and siltstone, and they have coarsening upward sequence in them. So that's why they've been essentially called cyclothems. And then further to the south, then we have the younger one that's best exposed, and it's the Dunlicky cyclothem. And it's there that I found the specimen I'm going to be talking about today. Sorry, I didn't mean to do that because we're doing this now. So what else do we find in the Central Clare Group? Just a kind of a background, the kind of fossils we do get here. The main ones, I guess the most important ones, are the ammonoids. So these have previously been called marine bands because they get concentrated in layers, horizons. That term should be completely disused now. It's not relevant really. We find goniotites or ammonoids throughout the sequence. And they are being used for the biostratigraphic reasons primarily. We also find with them various bivalves. Dumbrella is particularly common. There's lots of other different bivalves as well, Canaella, Posidonia, various things like that. Increasingly, I'm finding more and more crinoid material, and in fact, we're going to have I've got a new fauna essentially of crinoids, some fairly nicely preserved. Here's a cup we found last year. So that's a work in progress as well. We have plant material in the Central Clare Group. This is a stigmari. We've got quite a few of those, and we get them, if I just go back here, we get them quite abundant in the Tullig cyclothem, but also up in the Dunlicky cyclothem as well. So they're basically, again, showing us that we've got, typical for a cyclothem, we've got shallowing upwards to essentially emergent or soil formations. Less so in the Kilkee cyclothem, but we do know we've got very shallow water there as well. And then here in the Kilkee cyclothem, we get the classic Moher flagstones with these bioturbated horizons. They've been called Scalicia in the past, they've been called Olivites in the past, probably best referred to Samignites, and I'm working on them as well, doing a comprehensive review of what we got here, and there's some interesting stuff coming out of that. So we have a mixture of essentially, marine, non-marine fauna. There are other bioturbated layers as well, other trace fossils again, which haven't actually been described yet properly, so there's more work to be done in that area. But again, it's this mixture of typical kind of deltaic sediments, relatively shallow. You're getting a mixture of plant material, terrestrial material, and then fully marine material in alternating layers. So with that as the background, this is kind of what we're used to. This is what I found. So I'd like to introduce you to the newest member of the Central Clare Group fauna, and it's a conulariid. It's on a loose slab, as you saw. And here it's got these ammonoids, so it's in one of these kind of condensed horizons with the ammonoids. And typically for conulariid, it's got this kind of subtriangular shape. This one's about 10 centimeters long, and that's about the average range for conulariids. But they can be a lot smaller, and they can be considerably bigger as well. So you can see it's crushed, it's compressed. It's not really a beautiful specimen, let's be honest. So we need a bit of work on that. So what were the conulariids? They typically have this inverted pyramidal fourfold symmetry and an external ridged ornament. It's not the kind of thing you come across very often, to be quite honest. They're odd-looking things, and there's quite a bit of discussion about what they actually were. They range from the Cambrian to the Triassic. They kind of peter out, and they're most abundant in the Ordovician and Carboniferous, particularly in the Ordovician. So they have this. These are kind of reconstructions. These are what people have kind of said, they look like this, they look like this, they look like this. Some of that is based on, okay, we have these triangular lappets here. These are kind of folds at the top that kind of seem to be able to close off the open space within the conulariid. So these are essentially open cavities that are filled, usually when they're found, they're filled with sediment, but in life they would have had some kind of organic creature inside them. And it's that creature inside them that's the kind of the mystery, if you like, because up till now, while you get lots of reconstructions with these kind of tentacles on them, this is really the only evidence that there is some kind of tentacles here. And it's only, this was originally described as just a form B or form 2 or whatever. He was describing algae and stuff when he said, well, we've got this thing. And then Van Eyten looked at it and he said, yeah, that could well be a conulariid. It's a Cambrian one, based on the kind of the shape here, and this kind of, these are possibly the lappets that we're looking at here. But if you look closely at the photograph, it's a bit vague, to be quite honest, a bit of, with the eye of faith, you can see that there, but there does seem to be certainly something here, which may well be tentacles. But that's really the only evidence we have for the soft parts of these things. So it just makes it a bit more interesting to interpret what they actually are.
Zoe, do you quickly want to click on the projector symbol on the bottom right? I think
the projector symbol, this? No, where's the projector
next
symbol?
to the 60% on the bottom right.
I'm not seeing that.
Like there were like 3 different symbols next to the 60%.
No, I don't think he can see the same screen we can see.
No, I can't see it. I can't see it with 60% on
Okay,
it. Sorry.
Sorry.
So if we have a look here, so these are generally interpreted as being standing upright, attached to something on the sea floor. So sometimes they put in stalks, sometimes they're directly attached. And that attachment is essentially based on stuff like this. These are Ordovician, lower Ordovician conularids from Morocco. Van Eyten has done a lot of work. He's done probably more work on conularids than anybody else in the history of the planet. But we can see these are inarticulate brachiopods, phosphatic brachiopods. And we can see these are definitely some kind of attachment to these. Often they occur in pairs or kind of radiating pairs or even bigger groups sometimes. But this is, we can see that there's some kind of attachment going on here. And here it looks like they're actually attached onto another conulariid here. However, previous to that, he's also reported these ones from the Devonian, where they're submerged in the sediment, more or less upright. They're at various degrees, but certainly more or less upright. And buried to various depths. This is actually quite a poor diagram. You see kind of drawn in these spindly kind of tentacles, not very, realistic or anything like that, but and not based on any fossils, on anything in the fossils he found. But also we have these sporiferid brachiopods here, which appear to be in situ. And here's another one, the conularids lying on the surface here. So sometimes they seem to be buried in the sediment. I guess that's the point. And with these ones, he couldn't find any attachment lower down. So even though he looked for it, they weren't actually attached to anything. So there wasn't a physical attachment to a hard substrate down below. They just seemed to be in the sediment. So it kind of raises a question of how these things were living. Was there, did they have various ways of living, epibenthic or infaunal? So there's a kind of a mixture of ways of life for these guys. So they've generally been assigned to the Staurozoa. So within the phylum Cnidaria, which contains the corals, anemones, jellyfish, and hydroids and stuff like that, and they've been put into this class here, class Staurozoa, order Conulata. That's for the fossil part of it, the conulariids. In the recent ones, there's just one order here. These are the Stauromedusa, the stalk jellyfish. So essentially what they're saying is that these guys here are essentially stalk jellyfish, early versions of them, of course. And you can see why. They have a stalk, they have this kind of fourfold symmetry, and they have these tentacles. they come in a wide variety of forms as well. So you know, it's a reasonable place to put them. But there have been other suggestions. The very earlier suggestions, when they were found, this is going back 100 years or so, they were considered to be mollusks, perhaps orthoconic nautiloids, because they had that kind of triangular shape. Some people thought they might be annelids, based on the related similarity to Sphenothalus. At that time, Sphenothalus was considered by some to be an annelid. That's another interesting group there. You know, what exactly they are is still open to debate. Some people thought they might be hemichordates or even possibly vertebrate chordates. And there's another group then that say they're actually none of the above, and they're an independent taxonomic group of phylum rank without known close relatives. And the reason for that, or one of the reasons for that, is that because they have these essentially hard test. You know, it might be flexible, but it's phosphatic or organic phosphatic, which you don't get in modern Stauromedusae. So, you know, are they the same? Are they different? That debate is ongoing. And there are other conulariids in Ireland. This is the only specimen I asked Nigel Monaghan, and thank you, Nigel, for sending this image. There was only one record of it in the Natural History Museum in Dublin. Here it's called, they refer to a Conularia quadrisulcata, which was common at the time. And this is a specimen dating back to 1903. And apparently 5 shillings was spent on getting this from Clochran Quarry in County Dublin. There are other specimens in the British Museum of Natural History from the same quarry, similar specimens. So these are Mississippian in age. There are other records then from lower Paleozoic of Waterford, but the specimens apparently are lost. Now, there are possibly other records. I've asked Patrick Wise-Jackson to check in the Trinity College Museum. There might be something in there. Once conditions change and he's able to go back in, we'll find more. So there may well be other records that I'm not aware of yet. But for now, I'm claiming this is the only specimen from the Pennsylvania of Ireland. Just going to have a closer look at it now. There's kind of 3 areas which we'll zoom in on just for a bit more detail. And we'll start with these 2 over here, this area here. And this is the kind of stuff you see when you zoom in. This is a millimeter scale ruler here. And you see these growth kind of like structures on it, branching networks of various thicknesses, but you know, very small, so microscopic. Here's another, you can see this kind of branch network here. And you also see these kind of globular nodular structures as well on the surface. The surface isn't very well preserved. So what we're seeing here, it's hard to say which particular layer we're looking at in the surface, but it is consistent like this throughout the entire specimen. So these kind of nodular features up to 1 millimeter in size, but generally less. And then we also have these branching networks. Just for comparison, are they possibly, you know, algae, cyanobacteria, or fungi? Here we see some cyanobacteria. This is kind of what they look like, similar kind of scales, similar kind of features, but they could be algae, they could be other things as well. There simply isn't enough detail right now to say what they are, but they're certainly something. Another possibility for these nodular things is that in some conularia, this one is Mesoconularia from the Devonian of Czech Republic, they have these kind of strengthened nodules. So the test is made up of these. They're increasingly phosphatized and they're essentially armored. So that's a possibility. Maybe we're looking at this kind of thing in our specimen. But when I look at them in detail again, this is the only. In these ones here, they're very regular. They're very regular linear features, whereas in our specimen, they're not. I mean, this is the only time I get any kind of linear feature at all, and that's not really good. This is typically what they look like. So it's a much more random pattern, and it doesn't seem to be related to this kind of stuff we're looking at here. So I think we're looking at some kind of epibiont or some other encrusters or something like this, which then opens up the possibility that this thing was lying on the surface for a while, or you know, it wasn't buried rapidly and it wasn't buried in anoxic sediments quickly. And that makes sense. You know, we've just seen what Gary has said about what was going on in the Clare Shale, and something similar was presumably going on in the shales in the Central Clare group as well. So they may have been exposed on the surface. We know that there was rates of lower sedimentation because we do get these condensed horizons with the ammonoids in them. So the sedimentation rate was fluctuating. So there would have been periods of time when whatever it was lying on the surface and or very, very shallowly buried, but would have been exposed to encrusters or other organisms like this, whatever they may end up being. This part here is interesting. We see these kind of ridges on the end of it, and of course this would have been the bottom end, if you like. This is the open end at the top, presumably open up to the surface. And if we zoom in, we can see these kind of anticlinal, synclinal kind of folds, the wrinkles. Again, we see more details of the kind of surface that we're looking at here. And wrinkles like this have been recorded in other ones. These are Devonian conglomerates from Brazil, and we can see these kind of anticlinal and synclinal areas within the chest of these conglomerates. And these guys here attributed to sediment compaction. So the specimens they found were preserved at an oblique angle to bedding, so possibly in situ, or more or less in situ, and as they got buried, the compression caused these kind of taphonomic effects on the specimens. So they went in to look at all the taphonomic effects and describing how some of the species described, or even the genera described, may be the result of taphonomy rather than actual taxonomy. So if I can do a quick summary. So this is perhaps the first known conglomerates from the Pennsylvania Island, which would make it the youngest. It adds to the increasing known biodiversity of the Central Clare group that we know of, and I've got a lot more to talk about. I think possibly in the next IGRM 2020, I'll do a review of all the new stuff that we know from the Clare Basin. It's a poorly preserved, exfoliated, compressed specimen, so it's not going to really add to any of these questions that we have about the phylogenetic position of conglomerates, but I think it's nonetheless interesting. It has possible evidence of microboring, bioerosion, and clusters of unknown affinity. That might tell us a bit more about the environment and sedimentation rates. Based on those wrinkle zones, if they formed in the same way as the other ones were described, this one presumably then was originally semi-infaunal and possibly buried in soft sediment, or was growing partially embedded in the sediment. We can't see the base of it, so we don't see if it was attached. And because it's lying horizontal, it's since been removed from its original life position. But these are giving us clues that perhaps it was buried in the soft sediment. And then finally, note to self, this is the first. I only found it less than 6 weeks ago, so I must find more. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Great talk. So many nice pictures and more to come in IGRM 2022, as you already said.
Yes, book my place.
So just to learn for the future, there was a suggestion, if you click use presenter view, then it could probably have worked, just if it happens again.
Okay, yeah, I didn't even see that option on my screen for whatever reason. So I'll look into that next time I open up. Depends, maybe I'm on the wrong version. Okay.
No worries, it worked out perfectly fine how it was.
So I have a question here that's just come in from John Murray. Do the associated ammonoid fossils allow for more precise biostratigraphic assessment of age?
Yes, it's a simple answer. Yes, they do. We can tie that down. I don't have that right to hand. Not the specimens on this piece I have don't. They're very poorly preserved. But we do have the biostratigraphic zones in the area, and I can tie it, knowing where the location is, I can tie it into that. So that, absolutely, yes. So that's why we can tell it's it's from the Dunlicky and the relevant zones there. But yeah, we should be able to tie that down quite tightly. I mean, I may try splitting up the rock to see if I can get some really good samples internally, but that'll be risky. Might destroy the specimens. But yeah. Based on where it's found, I know exactly, essentially, what band it will fit into. So,
and John has also added ho ho because he's auditioning for Santa Claus for December. The other thing I was going to ask, somewhere conularid pearls. Am I imagining it, or was that mooted at some stage that you actually had phosphatic secretions inside the chamber?
Yes, you're right. I have seen some very few records of that. I don't quite know. I didn't really look into that in any detail because I didn't find any in mine.
Yeah.
But yes, you're correct. There has been some people have presented on that, and yet they do appear to be now. It might need a bit more work, I think, again, to relook at that with better specimens, perhaps, but certainly has been proposed, yeah.
Yeah, but they don't tie down the affinities of it particularly well or anything.
No, they don't really help in that at all, yeah.
Okay.
Brendan has another question.
That's only the tip of the iceberg, yeah. Yes. Oh, I can't. That was on the GSI, the Geological Survey of Ireland map, and it's down right on Waterford Harbour, that kind of area, and I can't remember off the top of my head which unit they described them from, but that information is available. I know there was another record after that then of some meeting where they described that those specimens were lost. That's how I know they're not available. But there may well be others stored somewhere at the GSI or something. Again, I haven't had the opportunity to do that yet, to see if there's any more. But certainly they have been found there, and if they've been found once, they can be found again. But yeah, so it does give a reasonably detailed location for where they were found. So that information is available. I just don't have it right now. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Nice. That would be cool. Yeah, that would be cool.
Brilliant. Thanks, Brendan. Okay, folks, stick with us. We have about 15 minutes left, and what we're going to do is we're going to reload up Odd. Thank you, Eamon. We're going to reload up Odd's talk and try and pick it up again from where you were, Odd, and finish it off. Is that okay? Are you there?
Yes, sure. Sorry about that. I think my connection dropped, so no I've just asked my housemates to stop using the Wi-Fi for a few minutes.
Get them off Netflix there and take it over. Yeah.
So I don't know actually where it stopped showing. Is that where?
I think that's as good a spot as any. I didn't recognize the photographs after that, so I think that's where we lost you.
Okay.
Yeah,
let's go from there.
Okay, cool. Thanks. So, yeah, so I was saying that we identified our target audience. We decided to do activities for families, and especially children from 9 years old and their parents, above 9 years old and their parents. And after targeting that audience, we need to understand what they know about geology and how they experience it in the city. So we decided to organize one-to-one interviews with the parents of those children to know a little bit more about what they know about geology actually, and about Cork's geology in general. And we are going then to prototype our science communication based on the results of that qualitative research. One of the key aspects of this project is the reconstructions of 3 different paleo environments. We are going to reconstruct so the 3 main lithologies that are found in Cork. We are going to reconstruct the Devonian Allred sandstone, the Carboniferous limestone, and the Quaternary glacial deposits as well. So people will be able to upload the different reconstructions on their phone directly from our website, and they will be able to do so while looking at the different outcrops and historical buildings. And the idea is really to show that rocks reflect, sedimentary rocks reflect past environments, and that those rocks can bring loads of information about those past environments. We've designed a very short animation, so I'm going to show it now. I hope it will work. So this is the kind of animation that people will be able to see. So we want it to be very fun for people and for children in general. So we are going to add faunal and floral content on the animations, and so we'll show them in the museum exhibition as well. So beside the 3D reconstructions of the 3 paleo environments, we'll set up geoheritage walks in Cork. We'll have 3 main walking tours. We'll have one centered on UCC campus. We'll have another one centered in the city itself, in the city center. And then we'll have one along the Blackrock Passage West Greenway. So there are really amazing outcrops out there and historical buildings. So we would like to show them to the public, and they'll be able to see some fossils as well. So that will be very interesting. Then we'll have a museum exhibition in Cork Public Museum. We'll have a small-scale exhibition. We wanted it to be very simple, and why not, move it to other locations in the future. So that's why we wanted to have something quite small. We are going to show rock samples collected from the area. Each rock sample will be accompanied by very clear information, very short information, but also by a QR code. And so people will be able to use the laser. So we'll add QR codes to the rock samples, and people will be able to scan on their phone and to have more information on the samples. And then we'll show as well a geological map of Cork, and that exhibition will be really the starting point for the different walking tours. This exhibition will be there for informing people, of course, but we really wanted to be an inspiration for children. Then we'll have websites. The website will be really the central part of our project. So we want that website to gather all the information about our project. We'll have an interactive map of Cork with all the different walks mapped out. And we'll have also key points of interest on that map. And each one of them will have an information box. We are going to add also more information about geology in general. We'll add some illustrations, animations there as well, like the one you can see here. And we'll also add content about what geology is and what is a geologist, and how children can become geologists. So as we are working on that project, we are having more and more content. We are developing animations, we are developing images. So we would like to use those images and animations to teach primary and secondary school students about geology, and really teach by examples, by showing how their city, how Cork, looked like in the past. And the main aim of our project is really to communicate science with our target audience, with families, children, So we would like to use a very clear and simple language, and we'll be very attentive to use specific words. And as scientists, we are using usually we use jargon, and we use words that can have different meanings for non-scientists. So we'll be very attentive to use simple words, or either to really explain what the different words and we'll also add visuals and animations to our explanations to make them clearer and easier to understand. And of course, we'll test our communication. So we'll ask parents to give us their feedback on how we communicate science to them. So we would like to have that project ready by the summer, so by July or August. And we hope that by then the restrictions will be lifted, and we hope to see people from other countries as well coming to Cork and enjoy the different activities. Yeah, so that's it for me. I would just like to thank our funder, Geological Survey Ireland, Cork Public Museum as well, and especially Daniel Breen, his curator, for accepting to host our exhibition. And a big thank as well to Kieran McCarthy from Cork City Council from his help and support, and Dr. Emma Hurley for the training in qualitative research. And we are going to add some content on social media. So if you would like to follow us, here are our details. So you can contact us as well by email if you want. So I'll stop sharing my screen now.
Thanks a lot. I think like every Irish city should have such an exhibition and heritage walks and tours. It looks great.
Thanks. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
We know that there are already some kind of similar outreach activities, I think in Galway and Dublin. So I'm speaking of tours, but I think it will be a test. So we'll test the project in Cork, and we'll see first how the public is really reacting to it. And we hope maybe in the future reaching out to people from other cities and see if they're interested in doing similar things in their city. So that would be great actually to have that in other cities.
Good, I think that's the end of session 2, isn't it, Brendan?
I'd just like to say thank you very much to Hilda and Paddy for chairing that session, and thanks very much to all our speakers in that session as well. Sorry about the little bit of technical difficulties, but I think we recovered from that okay. So thanks very much to everyone who joined in and was watching along. We're having a break now so that we can all get a bite to eat for lunch, and our next session is due to start in 1 hour at 1:30. So hopefully we will see you there. So thanks very much, everyone.
Thanks.